Review of image manipulation in Photoshop. So up to this point, you've learned how to manipulate images in Photoshop. You've learned how to delete unnecessary imagery. You've learned how to correct colors in an image and how to overall tweak an image. So just to review some of the tools that you should feel pretty comfortable about. You should understand the lasso tool family. Remember, the lasso tools are right up here. And we have the regular lasso, the polygonal lasso, and the magnetic lasso tool. So I want you to make sure you understand how those work. You need to understand adjustment layers. Remember, we can go to the image menu and go to adjustments and have all of our adjustments there, but these are destructive. So we want to use adjustment layers whenever possible. And you can simply do that by going over to your adjustments panel, or in your layer panel, you can choose the adjustments here as well. Same thing. So if I choose a hue and saturation, you can see that I have an adjustment layer here with a mask and the ability to do some color alterations. And that is non-destructive, which is why it's so hugely beneficial. You need to understand how to utilize the crop tool. Maybe some of you have not used that yet, the crop tool. The crop tool allows us to crop down a picture, and you can see that we have a ratio setting here. If there's a specific ratio, like if you want it to be a square, you can do a 1-to-1 ratio, and that means that when I click and drag, it's only going to be 1-to-1. Now when you do the crop tool, you get a preview of what's going to happen. You can drag this around. You get the rule of thirds. Some of you who have taken a photography class understand what that rule of thirds is. I can resize this a bit so I can really get my rule of thirds working for me. And if this is what I want, I can click the check mark, okay, and there it is. There's my adjustment. Now the other thing I want you to understand pretty thoroughly are the eraser tool families. So we have eraser tools here, eraser tool, background eraser, and the magic eraser. They all will work in a slightly different way. So understanding how you can use the eraser tool to your benefit. Now when you're wanting to delete unnecessary imagery, when you're trying to look at how to manipulate your image, say this one, I want to get rid of this little knot in the tree. I think it's distracting. So number one, I have to evaluate. What is it that I want to do? How do I think I'm going to do it? What would be the best tool to do it? So when you're performing this sort of image surgery, it can be very time consuming, it can be frustrating, but it also can be rewarding. So understanding what tools you have to use, how to use them, and what's the best one to use in this situation. So you have to understand the overall realities. You need to demonstrate problem-solving skills. They're required for you to, number one, evaluate your image and to know how to modify it. So you have to identify color problems that need correcting. You have to determine which objects or areas to keep, which to delete, which to fix, how to modify the image to get the look that you're going for. So you need to, number one, understand the realities, doing that problem-solving skills. You need to assess the situation. Identify the tools that are available to modify the image. You need to evaluate the image and determine, where are the changes required? How am I going to do that? What's the best method? What's the best tool to use to make these changes? And then, of course, performing the surgery, actually doing the image manipulation. Typically, you're going to use some sort of selection tool, whether it be a lasso family tool, or maybe it's one of the selection tool, quick selection, magic wand. It may be another method where you're making a quick mask to make a selection. It may be using the pen tool for those of you that really like the pen tool and can work quickly with it. Maybe it's the pen tool to trace, make a path that then you convert into a selection. So making sure that you're using the right selection tool and making sure that you are separating your pieces onto layers. Use layers effectively. They can be very efficient for you. Make sure you're working off of duplicated layers. Don't ever destroy the original. We have all kinds of tools to fix up, so to speak. I call them the Band-Aid tools. We've got the healing brush, the spot healing brush, the patch tool, content aware move tool, a red eye tool. So all of these tools are great for doing some alterations here. We can also apply filters if that's the effect we're going for. We can apply the liquefy feature to selected areas. We can adjust contrast. We can adjust the brightness. We can do all kinds of things. But remember, just as a safety net, duplicate the layers and try to use adjustment layers. Try to be as non-destructive as possible. When you're applying filters, use a smart object and smart filters. So the goal is to be non-destructive. We do not want to destroy pixels. So as you perform your image manipulation, make sure that you understand the realities, you assess the situation, and then go ahead and perform the tasks necessary. Make sure that you're utilizing your problem-solving skills and that you have a very good understanding of the tools in Photoshop.